If you will have any question, guys, you can ask me in the chat box or you can raise your hand. So your today's topic is about report writing. When we talk about report writing, from the very first thing, you can say like we are going to work on some information. When we talk about some information, so that means writing requires anything that should be in the written form. And then what it means that information is made with an intention that we are going to rely to the information or recounting some of the events or the incidents that we have noticed, and we are going to present or portray them in front of the people in a very presentable manner. So in a very formal manner, when we try to write down any informational work to convey it about any event or something specific, so that includes in report writing. Sometimes, like if you have seen on TV, most of the newscasters, they try, they do work on reporting something, so that is in the form of oral report writing, oral reporting, sorry, not writing. And then if we talk about like in a formal documented form, so that is in the writing form. So you can say that reports are conveyed normally in writing and speech through television or the film, and more oftenly in sometimes about any like industry or about any specific area. You also report. Reports basically they are administrative work. So for administration necessity, we have to report about something. So that's why we will be informed. We will going to get information. Most official form of information or work is completed via when you are going to report something. And reports they normally written in a sequential manner in order to its occurrence. Like you can say like there is some kind of pattern that we always try to use for report writing. So then if this is general report writing that I have talked about, what means basically reporting. Then if we talk about technical report writing, this is what you are going to work on it, and this is what you required. It's a kind of scientific study. You are going to deeply describe something that is you are going to observe, and you are going to get result on it. So a technical report, it's sometimes a kind of experiment you do, sometimes through your observations you are going to make a technical report. So this is what includes in our area. So technical report is basically a scientific report, which means that it's a document, a document that is going to tell us about something that is processing or that is processed, and what its progress is happened, what kind of methodology is there, how you have worked on it, and then what kind of results and conclusions you came. So the all research that you have done on it, this is basically when you are going to report, including its major points. So that is going to call as in report writing or technical report writing. So sometimes some reports, if they are in short length report, so they are just going to end with your results or your conclusions, and that's it. But if you are going to make a kind of report where you want to suggest someone about that industry, about that very work, um, so there you are going to put some kind of recommendations as well, including conclusion. Then I wanted to let you know about the preface of the report writing. When we say that report writing preface, that it means like what it includes, how we appropriately we need to written. Guys, when I'm going to talk about this very process, preface, here everything is mentioned, how you have to write it down. So please listen it carefully, because later on you guys have so much confusion that how to write it down. So that's why I put focus on it. So when you have decided now that you are going to writing the report, technical report basically, so obviously you have some objectives or some aims in front of you that you are going to clarify. So your aims of that will be clarified through your report. It means that you have to know the formal level of your writing, how you can write that uh, that report, that technical report, in a formal way. So when there is a formality, that means there is a uh, and there is a specific criteria for your language that you are going to use in it. So that means it should be on the appropriate level. Perfect and correct level should be used. So your tone for the language and your language manner, it should be formal, it should be technical and appropriate. As you know, in the last lecture I have talked to you about some words that just related to the technical writing. Next, when we talk about uh, its style, so that is formal, because we are not writing to our family or the friends, it's on a level of some professional level. So that's why your style will be the formal one. And then your reports are going to be that's why they are called as informal document, as I have discussed it. So when all these things are completed, now you have to write down it in a perfect manner. So manner is basically going to describe its shape. Then you have to choose the material that you are going to use in it. What sometimes in report writing, you are going, your observation can only be clarified with some of the points that don't need any measurements or any calculations or statistical parameters. But sometimes when you are going to write down your report, you required you can say some parameters. So that depends on you, that what type of material you are using, and so how you are going to cope up with that. Then after preparing all your points, that this is the area on which you are going to write down a report, and this is the data that you have collected. For example, if I gave you example of your industry, you are as I have given you a research paper that you have, that was not in the report form, that was in the form of a research that you have somebody have done. So report writing is quite different. In report writing, you are basically for example, if I'm going to say that you have to make a report on Nisha textiles. So you, being students of fashion designing, you went over there and you will see that how the process of there it is going to be started. Uh, what things that industry is carrying, how they are processing, what is in their manufacturing process, what is in their bleaching department, what is in their printing department, what is their what's their you can say like what's their strategy of marketing, so how they deal with their customers. All these things, when you are going to write down in a report from the very starting point where the industry started and just its introduction till the end, the conclusion and the results, along with some recommendations if required. So the whole thing that you are going to cover into that, that is basically your report writing, and you have to give a shape to it. So there are that I will discuss with you. For example, if you said that if we are going to talk about like there is report writing, so that means there must be types of that. So very first one type is the informal type of report writing, and the second one is formal type of report writing. So these two types, formal and informal, are required. When we talk about them, then we head towards the first one, that is informal report writing. So informal report writing basically just work on inform, like it gives you only some kind of information that it will tell you about, from that information what you have analyzed. So after analyzation you just give recommends. So that's why your report will be divided when into these three parts: information, analysis, and its recommendation. So that will be informal, because the some of the there are so many other points that required in a report and you haven't mentioned it. So I will let you know about it as well. Then it will normally what include into it: a memo, a letter, and a very short international document where you have just mentioned some kind of if you are going to give some kind of financial report or any activities that are going into that organization. So that will be in this kind of report, you can write it down. And any research or development report that you have done, so it will be based on these points. Then this kind of report normally is its length and formality is very different from the formal report, because its size will be short and its formality is not that kind of formal. It's a very simple and plain language without much use of technical language. So that's why informal report is different from the formal one. It is written basically according to the organization style and rules, but it basically does not include the preliminary and supplemental material, like what as we try to talk about the introduction, then we talk about that what later on happens. So all these things are not included into the informal report writing. Then informal report is usually controversial in tone, like means things are not so much evidential and they are not so much clear. So that means like in this kind of informal in this kind of report writing, we can't use it for a very professional purposes. So this can be written for just daily life of if we are going to report a normal and common issues from the daily life. So there you are going to write down with this pattern. So if we are going to write down with this pattern, that means there must be some types of informal report writing. In informal report writing, you are going to move towards progress report, sales activity, personal evaluation, financial report, feasibility report, literature review, and credit report. So these are some types of informal report. And if we are heading towards the formal report, that is total in opposition, and it's poles apart from the informal one. So there what we say, that report, a formal report is basically includes what factors, what points. It's based on the data and information. It is the core part of formal report, And what we do with this data, we first collect that data, and then with that data we make some interpretations. When we interpret the data, that means we are now converting that into towards that report into the formal one. That's why it is said that the formal report is more complicated as compared to informal, because informal report is not having all these complications with interpretations and data kind of thing. Whatever the general thing is in front of you in the form of information, you just take it and you just convey it. You don't work on it. But informal, that what I mean. It's not informal, it means formal. Formal report writing, what we do, we try to make it the more official one. So what is considered, it is considered as an written account of a very major project. Then some examples of subject matter include new technologies or advisability of launching a new project line, results of a study or sometimes an experiment, or any annual report if you are going to present on it, or year-old review on the development in the field. So all these kind of reports, they are basically called as in uh, formal report writing. So there must be some types of the formal report writing. Formal report writing, as I have talked about, some kind of annual reports are also included. Sometimes it's uh, technical reports include some sort of informational reports, analytical reports, or recommendation reports. So these are the types that included into it. Let's start with the introduction of report writing. When we talk about report writing, that means we are going to prepare some kind of document for the sponsors of that research project who are going to sponsor to that. We are going to inform them about our project. Then technical reports nowadays are basically considered as in main source of information, technical information and scientific. So they considered very important one nowadays. And they prepared for some international or a very large scale for a very large scale kind of distribution, that just not based on one organization but so many others. So there are not some kind of very absolute rules about the details of report production, because the report already includes totally adapted to the needs of its reader. So what a reader requires, what kind of information a reader requires, you basically adapt your whole report according to that. Flexibility and adaptation may be useful, but only to make it accessible to the reader. What it means, like flexibility and adaptation doesn't mean you are going to uh, what can I say, like well you are going to just make it out of the format of it, a very formal format. So it is not required in your report writing. What you have to do, you are going to make it the formal one, but it should be a bit easier in a sense that the reader, what they are going to read it, they can get your point. That's basically the agenda of making it flexible. Then obviously there must be some objectives why we need to write down the report writing. Objectives of the report writing is basically report identify what basically we needs to cover an information, and whom we need to write it down, why we need to write it down. So what, why, whom, All these are covered with the aim. What are your objectives of that report writing? So once your objectives are going to be clear, it will be easier for you to process the report writing and to start that report writing. So for anything, you must have to be clear about your objectives. Then when we talk about like its objectives, then we say that we need to write down that objectives in a very precise details, like to the point details. We have to write it down, and then we need to check that all the stages of that report writing we have covered or not, what stage we have left. So you have to work on it. There are some rules for the report writing that you must know about it. Like the reader, you have to keep in mind that your reader is your most important person who is going to know about what you have written. If you are not going to keep in mind your reader, then your purpose of writing is totally waste. It's useless. Why you are whom you will write then? So keep in mind your reader's level of knowledge and then their requirements. Then report shouldn't be like you are going to write it down consisting of 15 to 20 pages. uh, it depends, like sometimes people also try to write down even 30 pages for a report writing. You are just reporting on something. You are not uh, going to make experiment or the huge research process. It's not included. So people always try to mix these things. You have to keep in mind all then whatever the references you are going to use into that report, it must be like for the writing purpose. Obviously you are going to write down some other reports maybe related to that topic. So keep in mind the references of those, and these should be included into your report writing. Then your report writing should be very accurate in writing manners. Whatever suitable things that you need to attach with your report, like you can say, if there will be any uh, mm, what like I don't know why this words are skipping from my mind. I mean to say, like, if there will be any chart, there will be any diagram, there will be any table that you wanted to put to clarify your information, your data more, and you wanted to, or you can handle it more good, and you can analyze your data through that in more effective way, or you can discuss your data into more effective way. So you can put it as well. Then your report must be error free, and it should be very good in presentation. That means it must be a good presentable report. Then we are categorizing the material of the report. Then if we are going to categorize it here, what we means that as material arrives, it should be put into three categories. The important one, information, should be the very first one. So what we need to do, we must go into the report because it is completely relevant to the objectives. Then borderline the information is some kind of information that uh, only requires to some readers. So that information must be amplified. Information that is really interesting or not to the writer, but it is relevant to the report, you have to write it down. It doesn't mean. And a very important point that is really that is going to play a vital role into your report writing. What you are not understanding, if you are not getting that point, or you are not interested into it, so you are just going to extract from the report. Don't try to do it. It can sometimes incomplete your report writing. So try to go over that, write it down, develop an understanding about that point. It's not hard to develop an understanding. Go more research on it, no, find out some other points related to it, so you will easily take help from anyone, so from your mentors, from your friends, so you can easily cover up. So but don't try to exclude that point, that is really important for your presentation, on the basis of that you are not getting it, or you are not interested into it. Then when we talked about this was all about your basic information of a report, like what we need to do with the report, what we have to set for the objectives, how we are going to work on it, what how we need to categorize it. So these are all the beforehand, uh, before writing that information, what you have to do with the data. This is what we have talked. Then we are going to move towards basically the format of the report writing. So when we talk about format of the report writing, following points, it must be in your report. Even when I will assign you to write down a report, you have to write it down according to this manner. Very first one is title page of your report writing. So your report writing must carry a title page along with your title. I will give you description of these. Then acknowledgement is there, content page is there, abstract page is there, introduction is there, then body of your report, then conclusion of report, references of report. And in, as I told you, it is not compulsory all the time. Sometimes after conclusion you give some time recommendations as well, so you can include that part according to your topic and according to your requirement of the report writing. Let's head towards the very first one, that is about title page. So when you have to write down a title page of your report writing, that means it is going to be the very first page of your report writing. So the very first page must include what? The title of your topic, then your name, yeah, author's name, whatever. I mean, it's you obviously. Then report references number and date. Uh, if you are from a companies whom you are writing, from where you are writing, for example, you can put logo of university UMT, and you can also put your company name of your university. So your department's name can be written into that as well. Along with it, a copyright statement required, that so that nobody can copy it. Your copyrights must be with you. It's for the security purposes you can do it, and that's it. This is all about your copyright page. Sometimes you can not, you are not going to write it down on the very title page. Next to title page you can write down the copyrights. Then when we have written now the title page, and after the copyright page, the next page will be about acknowledgement. Acknowledgement, from the word you can consider it that we are going to dedicate our work to someone whom, to our families, sometimes the people who helped you in that research. It can be your mentors, it can be your friends, your family, your teachers, your colleagues, your subordinates, your whatever the persons who helped to you. So you can dedicate that, and that page must included your thank you kind of things into it. So this is about your acknowledgement. Then the next one is table of content. Be very careful when you are going to write down table of content. Why? Because when you are going to write down table of content, the numbering that you are going to put into it, sometimes the numbering of your pages of the same heading, they will be different. So check it down and cross check it again and again until you are not going to submit your final draft. So what table of content basically includes? It includes the page sets, content page sets out the sections and subsections of your reports, and I will show you all these points and their corresponding page numbers. And it should be clearly show the structural relationship between section and subsections. That means if your introduction is on the page number 1, introduction includes the very first heading, that is definition of that. So definition will be the part of introduction. That means it is the subsection. So your section will be 1 and your subsection will be 1.1. So its subsection then will be included your objectives. So that means that will be 1.2. All these are coming if under the introduction. So then make it like this. So it will be it will be why we need to write it down. It will make your reader uh, like it will, sorry, it can give your reader a very easy approach how to directly go to the section that he or she is interested to read. So they can just look at the number of pages and along with the section number, and they can to the accurate page. So you have to write it down and number sections by the decimal points and numbering system you can make it. Then summary is also called as an abstract. So normally nowadays we always never try to write down summary right after the content. We write it down as an abstract, but it is basically summary. And it is always written at the very end when you just complete your whole research, your whole report. Then after completion of it, at the very end you are going to write down summary, because you are now going to cover the rest, the whatever you have written, into a very short manner. So summary is going to give you a short overview on your writing. So that's why it is said that it provides a brief overview of the substance of the report, usually not more than half a page. So please consider it mine. It's it Summary is similarly the pattern was for your review writing. I told you it is not going to be more than 1 page or 3/4 of your page. So don't try to write it down with the 2 pages or 3 pages of your report writing. Sometimes it can go 1 page and maybe the other page, half of that in the next page, but not more than it. Your review just require half page or 1 page, not more than that. So summary requires only a half page or not more than that, because it's a report writing, it's not a huge research. It is not an introduction. It is just going to give the key features or the very important points from the whole report into it. So you're just going to include all these points till even the conclusion of your report or the result of your report into it, whatever you have done during the investigation of that report. Then the next part of your report is after writing obviously you will write down the summary at the end, but you have to put according to the manner that I have shown you. You have, when you are going to write it down, please keep in mind that you are going to write it down in the same sequence as given onto the very first slide format. Either you are writing it at the end, it doesn't matter, but it should be the very start one. Then when you are going to write down introduction after your summary, put your introduction first. Introduction is going to give you the background information of your topic, and it basically consists of 3/4 of a page and in length. And introduction is including what? Introduction is basically background of the topic, and it is going to give a clear statement of the purpose why you are going to write down that report. What is your aim of writing that report? So your introduction must include all these points. Then your body of the report, you are going to present your work here, that the introduction and conclusion act as a frame for your body only. Therefore all the details of your work you must include into your body of the report, like how you have worked on it. This is must you have to include. So the presentation of information should be in a very logical way and in a very sequential way should be developed into the body of report. Then conclusion of your report provides an ending of your report, that the whole data that worked, how it will overall give you a view. So what you have got as in results from your reports. So this should be added into your conclusion. Along with that, when we say that we have to write down a conclusion, that means the statistical parameters that we have used and all the decision that we have made on that based on the ideas or the facts I'm sorry, that we have collected and we have processed it, that all must be obviously come up with some kind of results. So that results should be into the last one, that and then you from the results, from the very start till the results, whatever the things important features you have collected from it, you are going to add it into the conclusion. Your final words, conclusion is basically going to based on it. Reports are considered a very effective and internal tool of information and communication, and people always consider it a problem solving kind of thing. So please be very careful when you are going to write down your report writing. Then as it's not important that all the reports must have recommendations, some of them if they have, that means you are going to suggest how the next person should move. So these recommendations basically are your suggestions that can provide sometimes them to change a thing, sometimes any further studies with the points that you have not hit it, they can do it. So in this form you can give the recommendation. And then if we talk about references, this is the standard way how you have to write down. First you have to write down the author's last name, then the first name, and then the date of your document and title of your document, and the date if it is accessible through the internet, so you are going to write down the its URL as well on the same validate. So in this way you have to make the references. Here I have mentioned in front of you some references. If you will start with the first one, that is LA comma then M dot, and then when LA has presented a report in 1996, and the report name, what edition it is published, it was the third edition of the report that was published, and then New York Times, and what was the name of that publishing company, that was Springer Verlag, or you can say Villag, or you can say like if any journal is there, so it can be the name of that. So in this way you have to put your references at the end of your report, from where you have helped your introduction or your background or your body of your report. Then yes, this point I wanted to make it separately. This is not the part of your report. Your report is going to end with the references. This is for the information of writing. When you are going to present a report, you can include any as I have told you, any statistics, any charts, any graphics, to make it more clear, to show some explanation of that report, so you can write it down. Sometimes people do very common errors in the report writing, so it shouldn't be make, because don't try to make your report boring, making it its length, making it a very lengthy one. So don't try to make errors in your language, in your writing, in errors in the form of like you have not presented accurate data, so don't try to make it and lengthy already talked about. Interesting facts and figures uh, always should be part of your report writing, so people can try to read it. They just willingly read it, not forcefully. This is a sample that I have given to you in front of you, a report writing sample, and this is a general one. This doesn't mean that your report writing is going to be this much only. No, it is not. This is just a sample. You have to extend it in each part more. So this report is about on rise in computer gaming addiction among teenagers. So that means some people, some teenagers were there who indulged into the game, computer gaming, and they became addicted to it. So what basically parts are going to include? If you will see the very first part, that is introduction of your topic. So first in introduction, the it is included what purpose, then background, then if you are going to move with it, then you will see that after purpose you are going to talk about the background of this, like what basically this topic is about, what it carries, how the other people, if they have any research on it, so what is that. Background will be included, then method of investigation is included, how you are going to investigate this report, this topic. So maybe you are going to make some questions and you are going to just put in front of some people, and they are going to fulfill it. So in this way, or you are going to make some interviews maybe, or you are going to make an observation of it. If you have visited any industry, so your observation, from the observation what data you have collected, so in this way as well. And what is the scope of it, why it is important to search on this topic. So this is, in this way, these are the first points for the introduction. It doesn't include body, or it doesn't include the conclusion of the report. It is just only about the introduction of the report. Here I have pointed out how you have to give numbering to your report. If you will see, this is the title, then you have number your each title of your each heading and subheading. The heading was introduction, its subheading was purpose, background, method, and scope. So you will see, if we have given the introduction number 1, then its purpose is subheading, so subheading is 1.1. Then the other subheading is background, it is 1.2. How? As much as you are going to add subheading along with number 1, you are in under the number 1 your heading, so you are going to increase their numbering 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can get how we have to number them in the heading and subheading. So the same numbering you have to put into the table of content. How I will send you the format of report. A report I will send it to you even, and you will see that how people work on it. So you will see that how they do. On the left side, they will write it down, introduction, purpose, then a name of your headings and subheadings. And on your very right side of the page, you are going to write down numbering of the pages. And here we are going to end it. If you will have any queries about it, you can ask. And obviously, if you will do efforts, it never dies, so you have to work on it. And with this, I'm going to end your lecture, and now we are going to head towards the discussion on the topic. Whatever your questions will be, you can ask. Thank you.